Greetings. Hi. Hi. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me at Ask the Teacher. I'm your host, Veronica Steele, your PDS for ABC-Tutor LLC. Ask the Teacher is a Q&A platform where you can ask questions about your child's early childhood development or your students or the CDA process. All right, let's go to class. Hi, welcome. Please make sure that your cameras are off. Please know that this meeting is being recorded. We're going to dive right into the CDA process. I know that's why we're all here. Today we're talking about preschool CDA process. So if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat or you can to the meeting. Okay. So please make sure that there is a private room and that you are acting as the lead teacher. So you're not acting as the assistant teacher, but you are the lead teacher. So if you are currently an assistant teacher or associate teacher, that day you need to be in the role of a lead teacher. Your visit will take 4 hours, 1 hour for a review in the private room at the end, 2 hours of observation, and 1 hour for the private room reflection of your portfolio. All right, you have the booklet with you. The tool that we're using is in the back of your book. So just make sure that the corresponding verification visit that you're doing is the actual visit that's in your booklet. So everything that you have as far as your competency statements and things like that should reflect the CDA visit that you're doing. So if it's infants and toddlers, your paper should say as an infant toddler teacher. If it's preschool, it should say as preschool. It should not be vice versa. So make sure that your information on your competency statements is the same as your verification visit, why I'm there. So please don't be alarmed when your PDS is actually asking you questions that don't pertain to what you do, because a lot of times candidates assume that the verification visit is just about them and what they're actually doing with the boys and girls. It is, however, we're observing the program as a whole. So a lot of times we'll ask questions about the environment. So that's the first page. I don't know if you've looked over the scoring tool. I'm trying to pull it up here. There's some right here we go. Your family questionnaires. Please make sure that however many you've given out, that's as many possibly that you could have gotten back. So if you give out 10, try to get those 10 back. If it's not those 10 that you get back, you should at least have more than half. So if there's 10 and you have 5, see if you can get 6. And don't worry, that's not something that we actually read. That's for your privacy. Here's the form. That's actually for your privacy, so you can see what your families feel about you and how you're serving the children to their best abilities. And the program as a whole, we just are there to count them. So like I said, make sure that you at least get more than half. You might just want to just put a little bug in your parents' ears. Did you get that, statement that I sent you? Can you maybe turn that back into me? It's for my visit. Because a lot of times parents don't know. You guys work with children, they don't know the importance of things unless we kind of clarify a little bit more of what we're looking for. All right, so now we're in the scoring till here. And when I spoke to you a second ago about we're not just here to observe you, we're here to observe your program as a whole. So to make sure that your program in a whole, because you are the lead teacher, so you have associate teacher that day following you, you have parents and of course the children that are following you, and they're trusting you to make sure that their environment's safe and healthy. So the first page is safe and healthy. So this is what your specialist sees. We give 1 for little or no evidence, 2 for some evidence, 3 for a great deal. So say as far as safety, because this is the first one that we're on. So it says, first question is materials, equipment, environments are safe. So say I'm able, or your PDS is able to observe that you have your procedures for emergency procedures posted. Those procedures need to be by each door. So make sure, just like for licensing, there are procedures at each door. Say there are no locks on your cabinets because you do have 3-year-olds. Just make sure that those biohazard, those cleaning solutions are above level and not at the bottom. So I may say, Oh, they have some evidence of safety if your light sockets aren't closed, if you have maybe like one or two missing, the little closures on the light sockets are off, or if their allergies aren't posted. If I say, where are the allergies? And a candidate tells me, oh, they're in the kitchen behind the, you also need to have them posted in your classroom. Because if you ever had a substitute teacher or something like that, they would need to know where that information is, because they're the ones feeding them snack or lunch. So that's what the some evidence is, a little evidence, and extreme, a lot of evidence. That's what the 1, 2, and 3 is for. Environments are safe. Like I said, make sure the doors, if they're supposed to be locked, most classrooms are supposed to be locked nowadays. Make sure that they're locked. So it's not, oh, we were just waiting for our other teacher to come in and the person didn't lock it, because we do write down for that kind of stuff, because you never know who's coming into your building. So you do want to make sure that day, especially, all the time, but definitely that day, if the door is supposed to be locked, let it be locked. As far as well-planned work, well-organized emergency procedures, like I said, make sure one's at every door. Okay, if a window is your exit, make sure that area is labeled as well. First aid supplies, that has to be marked with a giant red cross, so that, like I said, if you had a visitor in your building that was actually helping, if one of the teachers had to step out for a minute and one teacher's on one side of the room and one of the parent visitors on the other side, and they need the equipment, you can't run over. They need to be able to visually see where it is. And that American Red Cross lets everyone know that's where those emergency supplies are kept. Make sure that your bottles, your bleach solutions and things like that, are labeled with the correspondent number to bleach and things like that. And make sure, like we talked about, they're stored at adult level or locked if they do have to be on that bottom cabinet. That's also what the 1, 2, and 3 is for. Healthy materials, equipment, and environment are clean and promote good health. So like I said, the first hour of your observation is generally your PDS looking around your environment. Because remember, the learning environment isn't just what our teachers can do, it's the environment too. So there's more than one teacher in the room. There's the environment, there's the teachers. So make sure that both are safe, healthy, and responsible. The disinfectant solutions we talked about, and the health information like allergies and things like that is posted. So if we're going into the learning environment, this is where we are actually observing you. And we want to make sure that the environments are pleasant, that they're warm and welcoming, and the appropriate levels of stimulation. So I know classrooms may look a little different now because of the pandemic, and we weren't having all the things out, that there were just sections of things that boys and girls could be able to do and use, excuse me. But make sure that you explain that to your PDS. So if this location of toys is for this particular student or this particular, just tell them how you're social distancing so that you don't get marked down for some things. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure all areas aren't open in the classroom, or they may be, depending on how your center does things and how your cleaning schedule is because of the pandemic. But just kind of explain how your program's set up with that safety in mind. So the environments are arranged, but even though all the materials aren't out, make sure that your classroom is still set up to where you have your science, your discovery area, your technology area, so we can visually see those labels. And remember, we're looking on a child's perspective, so you don't want to have those things high. You want to have it at the child's level, because that's what your PDS is going to be looking for. Your equipment, your shelves should be labeled. If this, things weren't in pandemic style, but we still should be able to see labels where things would go. So that's what this actually is talking about. Also, with the learning environment, make sure that things are labeled as far as the children's names. You want to have a family wall up to where we can actually see how a child is associating themselves with the classroom, where they can actually see how their coats and things like that are labeled. Like I said, I know a lot of social distance, but their names should also be on the cubbies and things like that, so that they can kind of see where they belong. And, the pictures help them so that they feel like this is their school, not just a place that they go. And their artwork as well. So mentioning artwork for the learning environment, you do want to have various types of art because you all know as what we're looking for is that the art is developmentally appropriate, which isn't ditto sheets and things like that, which isn't one particular art for. So if you guys are doing, say, self-portraits, each child's self-portrait looks different because all children, they all see themselves differently and how they kind of see how they look. If you're using different collage materials and that it's not where each person has one brown eye, each person has, unless, they do have that, but you want to have a collage, an array, so that they can choose what color hair they like to have or things like that. Just make sure that the art is definitely open-ended where it looks like they did it and it wasn't put that here, put that there, so they all should not be looking the same. And if they all did do a self-portrait that day, that's great. You can have a couple up there, but also have a different type of art just to give a collage of the different projects that you do in class. Now, remember, anything that your specialist cannot observe, they're going to ask you about it. So that's when your portfolio comes into play, and also your words, if you can explain how things work in that area as well. So remember, your PDS is here to give you the supports that you need and to show you where you may need to strengthen in an area, not necessarily just to say, oh, this isn't right, that's not right. That's not why your PDS is there. They're there, just like your ECS, your early childhood specialist, is there to give you guidance and suggestions and to help steer you in the way to be the most effective for children. Because all learning needs to be meaningful to them, which you all already know. We talked about developmentally appropriate materials just a little bit, and we talked about how it may look different because of COVID. But just like I said, explain those things to your specialist because we do know there might not be a whole lot of materials out. So just explain that to them, especially with the variety of materials. Does anyone have questions thus far?
No, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I do have one. I'm in an infant room and our school provides lockers outside the classroom. So the only thing they have with their names on it in my classroom are like the infants, like in their baskets with their diapers, their creams and all that.
Okay, so
yes.
okay, I'm trying to, so the outside lockers have their names on them. Is that what you said?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you can,
because I know you said you wanted to make it personal for them inside the classroom.
right.
I mean, being infants, but we have their artwork and everything up there. So, they know what they've made and stuff like that. So, but for them to recognize where their cubbies and that, they know where their lockers are. The older ones do at least.
Okay, so with that, you want to make sure that their pictures are in the classroom so that they can see themselves in the classroom because since they are so small and the words really, they know where their things go. But that family tree, you want to add, make sure that it's at their level.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Not right now. Okay, that's fine. Like I said, anything that your PDS cannot see, that's where your review and interview, not interview, but your review is going to come into play in your portfolio. A lot of stuff we can see in there, but then there's some stuff that we just can't map out. Please make sure your daily schedule, your weekly lesson plans are posted and that they're developmentally appropriate, that your schedule allows for children different needs to be met at different times. Yep, just those weekly plans. The quiet nap area, I'm not sure how programs are set up for COVID. I'm assuming that they are, still apart, but that's also another way for developmentally appropriate in those young learners being able to see what's theirs. I don't know if you use bags to put their blankets and stuff in to put them on the cots. Like I said, that's something that you're going to have to explain to your PDS so they can see how they belong in that environment. I'm pretty sure that those cots are wiped down every day, but as long as they're labeled. And if you put the cot or bedding in a place to where that child actually knows, oh, this is my bed, this is where I sleep. Just give them that routine and that familiarity so they're not moved at a different spot all the time. And then, like I said, just explain those things to your PDS. As far as the physical, your gross motor and fine motor, your large muscle equipment for outside play, those need to be out. So just like when your early childhood education specialist comes in, those things aren't put away. I'm pretty sure that, it will be socially distanced, but there's more than one tricycle or there's more than one little rocker thing, or, you know what I mean? And then that if it is, the 6 feet apart, that child knows this is their rocker thing at this time. I don't really know how each program does it with the pandemic, but that a child knows, if I'm using this equipment is mine. However you have it set up for COVID, let your specialist know so that you don't get marked down to where a child looks like they don't belong, like in the playground area. You kind of understand what I mean? So like if this is the tricycle that they're just using for, because of the pandemic and no one else can use it, until like the next outside time, and then a specialist see another child comes over and try to use it, and then the child and the staff member saying, no, you can't use that, it kind of looks like the equipment's not open for everybody. So if you're saying that because of the pandemic and social distancing, just let that specialist know. We usually let them share bikes, take turns, whatever, but we have to wait till we wipe it down, things like that. So it doesn't look like, separation, that every child is allowed to use all the equipment at the outside time and that there's enough for everyone. Let's see. Let's go down to, mentioning the fine motor. I know things again are going to look different because of the pandemic, but with the fine motor, if there isn't activities that we can visually see that that's happening in small group, just let us know. Like I said, some of your activities will be on the lesson plan, so the specialist can read that to see how you do different lessons at different times using the pincer, the fine motor development. But we got to be able to see it. If we can't physically see it in your notes. And if they still can't do it, they will ask you. So just kind of be prepared to say how you promote fine motor development as well as physical. Also, I'm not sure, well, probably the infants, but at snack time, you want to use this sight, smell, taste. I know generally we could do it, before the pandemic, if you were like making meals or however you did like the Senate Play-Doh. I'm not sure if Play-Doh's being used at your center, but use this sight, smell, taste component at that time. So if a specialist can't physically see at mealtime, you're talking about sight, taste, smell, and things like that. If your specialist isn't there at that time, this again is an area they'll speak to you about after in your review or during your portfolio. They may be able to see that. Has anyone went over this form at all? Because I know a lot of times teachers are like, no, that's for them. I'm not going to look at it. But yeah, just go ahead and look at it. Has anyone looked at this form?
I briefly looked at it. That's why
Yeah.
I thought it was for you guys. So that's why I didn't finish fully looking through it.
Yeah, that's
But I will
generally.
tonight.
Yeah, that's generally how it goes. It's kind of like, don't look at that. But yeah, everything on here in the back of your book, I mean, the council pretty much made it to where the candidates feel comfortable knowing how they're being assessed. Because that's like one of the biggest things with our PQAs as we're in our classrooms with the ECS is, what are you assessing us on? So this is a very big deal as far as your council wanting to let the candidates know this isn't something that you're not prepared for, that everything that that you can expect to happen is in the book, especially when we're looking at the environment and we're asking questions of why is this like this or why is that like this, and you're like, well, what does that have to do with my teaching? It's like, because we're looking at the environment as a whole, safe, healthy, and responsible. As you look at functional area 5, the cognitive aspect of it, just make sure that your language is matching an activity or what a child is doing. So you already know we're not using good job. We're not using I like when you do this, or I like, or I like. It's not about us. It's about the child and how they feel and their confidence, their social emotional modulation that they're trying to grow. So just use, what I say to candidates is just stick to the facts. If you stick to the facts, you can't praise. So if you see a child that's doing a developmentally appropriate experiment, say they're playing in the sandbox, if it's allowed at your center at this time, and they may say, oh, look at this, I made a castle. Do you like it? If you just stick to the facts, I see your castle is brown. I see your castle is big. I see you have windows in your castle. I see, just stick to the facts, and then you won't mix up your words and give those praises of encouragement, and you'll just give feedback to them that helps on their developmental label. That's not praise, but just encouragement, actually. Okay. Let's see. So your materials and equipment that stimulates thinking and problem solving, that means you're going to want to have your literature in there. You're going to want to have things that aren't just moving one way, like not just rolling or not just bouncing, but you want to have a variety. So just different forms of equipment that promotes problem solving. So if they're doing puzzles, you don't want to have, say you have puzzles, but they're all like the flat puzzles. You may want to add some 3D puzzles in there. You may want to add floor puzzles, just to give a variety that stimulates the thinking. You may have like the little lock and keys, just various equipment. Like I said, if everything isn't out, we should be able to see it labeled in the different centers. That stimulates their thinking and problem solving. And remember, we're listening to see how you sound if they come over to you and ask you something about a toy instead of doing it for them. We want to see that you encourage their problem thinking skills. So instead of doing these things for them, maybe ask open-ended questions on how they can fix it and things like that. Communication, I mentioned through storytelling. So when you're reading a book, you don't want to read like, let's see, the CDA competency score instrument is the tool that children don't respond to that, as you guys probably already know. But when we're observing you reading to a child, you want the CDA competency tool experiment is a tool utilized to determine you want to give more animation, because that's how boys and girls learn. They're looking at you, they're modeling you, not like I'm sounding now, which is really monotone. They want to hear those fluctuations in your voice to help them stay engaged in your reading. So maybe stop, ask questions about the pictures and things like that, just open-ended ways. All right, so we're going to take a 2-minute break, and I will be right back.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, awesome. I'm looking at this functional area 6 communication, and I mentioned about literature and storytelling. Make sure that your books are developmentally appropriate. You want to make sure there are lots of, especially with infants and toddlers and 3, 4, 5, you want to make sure that there are pictures in there, because we're promoting that cognitive skill where boys and girls can actually be familiar with the book so they can read the pictures. So that's what we're looking for as your specialist. In these boxes right here that say review notes, where it says optional notes, communication, these are the notes that your specialist is writing in. So the scores aren't necessarily given during your verification visit. They're taken out of the notes, the context as well, to give your specialist time to review it. When we're doing your observations, we have 2 days to submit your scores. So this is when we're looking at all the information to see if it was just a little bit of evidence, a lot of evidence, or maybe like in the middle. So you want to check off A, B, C, and D on here. So when you're, if you are reading a book, or if you notice that day that they observed, you haven't gotten to it yet. This is something you can also tell them during your verification visit. When I'm doing my visits, I'll put question marks in these boxes. I know a lot of specialists do. That means in your review, we're going to talk to you about it. We want to know more about it. When you write your lesson plan, which is in your portfolio for like a sample lesson plan, some of this stuff should be listed like in your scheduling. So children are read to every day, and your PDS specialist can see it, because at 1 o'clock they're read to, and then before they go home they're read to, like the read alouds. So that'll give you that check right there in A. Also, when you're doing your schedule, your your lesson plan, a lot of times when we're preparing our verification portfolios, we used things maybe 2-3 months ago or like a lesson that we like. So if your lessons are dated, you want to make sure that the dates reflect your verification visit. So if I come in, what is this, June, and I'm looking at a lesson plan from October of last year, please just make sure it's within the month. So you want to have a June lesson plan if you're getting observed in June. And if you maybe downloaded one from the internet, you want to look at the bottom, make sure it doesn't have a date like 2012, things like that. So let's go to the social. Again, that's about the amount of equipment for social that children are able to fight, or we know they're going to fight over toys, but that there's enough. And if you're social distancing, that child knows this is their toy, has their name on it. If they're using the red one that day because of the social distancing, this child's using the green one and things like that. Just make sure that there is a system to where you can explain why there aren't a lot of things out at this time, why it's labeled, and why she only can have the green one and things like that. So it doesn't look like your materials are limited. Your guidance, and we're looking for behavioral problem solving as well. So make sure that you do your conflict resolution. We want to see that modeled. If we can't see that modeled, again, we're going to ask you during your review or be able to see it in your notes somewhere in your competency statements. Your family piece, where if we don't see you communicating with the family at drop off, or if it's in the evening at pickup, we want to see how you converse with your families and give them information. So this is if you're using Dojo, as if you're using your LMS, if you're using paper, as far as when they come in, they have a parent board and things like that. How are you communicating what's going on in your program? Are you using newsletters? This is what this piece is. This gets you your A, B, and also the notes in there. But the parents feel like they're a regular part of the program. Also, when are your parent involvement meetings? And that's something that should be posted. If not posted, we'll ask you about it. Safety at all times. Make sure if you do have to step out, or if your co-teacher has to step out, someone else has to come in, because that automatically isn't safe. Your PDA specialist isn't, your PDS isn't there to be that person in the room when the children, when someone has to leave the room. That's not why we're there. We're there to observe you. So you want to make sure that you have that rotating schedule. If you have to step out, another teacher knows that they need to come in so that you can stay in ratio. Healthy eating, we want to see, I said, like the sprays, we want to know how you're cleaning the table. Make sure that the hands are being washed for not just yourself, but also for the children. We want to see that. Healthy habits. If someone goes to the bathroom, we want to hear those reminders if they've forgotten. Don't forget to wash your hands, especially now. Your learning environment is a nurturing relationship. We talked about the weekly lesson plan. Make sure that daily lesson plan is posted for parents and posted for your PDS. Like I said, we don't necessarily want to intrude on your time with children. We're there to be a support, which means we don't necessarily want to keep coming up to you asking you questions. We want to be able to visually see. Just like if a parent was to come into your center, or a substitute teacher was to come in, they should be able to visually see, oh, there's the schedule, oh, there's the lesson plan. There's, be able to have those identifiers like student work, which is the artwork over here. Put some artwork throughout the room, but your main part should be at one place so a parent will know where to look. Because with things all on the wall, sometimes it's kind of hard to see artwork hidden in between all the pictures and stuff. So make sure there's a designated area for it that shows their KWHL learning. Make sure that the parent board, they know where to go to get information. Just make sure that your classroom is culturally competent and also competent for the families to know where to go. Speaking of culturally competent, when you do have your books, make sure that they reflect the students in your class. So if you have multi-ethnical classroom, make sure there's multi-ethnical literature or dolls or furniture, manipulatives, things like that, especially authentic materials. Make sure that you have that in your classroom. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I do.
Yes.
So with my class right now, I work within a district and we're going to be doing like a summer program.
Okay.
So we're going to have like, you know, different things going on within the summer. So we don't really have a set schedule. Should I set a schedule for that week?
So what you're going to want to do is not interrupt the children's routine. You guys have been going on for a while, I'm assuming. So you want to show that in your portfolio. So in your portfolio, it should be what a regular, because I know like a lot of candidates like to get observed during the summertime, but you still want to have that portfolio look just like your classroom. So are you
Okay.
saying if your classroom is, make sure your classroom is not empty to where it
Right.
looks like, well, we would have this here or we would have that there. That's not a classroom that you want to be observed in. You want to
Okay.
be observed in a classroom that's set up, even if it's a summer program, but your shelves, you want that stuff to be labeled. As far as the scheduling, like I said, don't interrupt the children. They have been doing the schedule, their summer schedule maybe already. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly who this is or when your visit is, but in your portfolio, make sure you have, this is what we usually do, but you know, this is summer. Your PDS
Okay.
respects that because we
Okay.
can obviously see how it's going, but do not bring your PDS into an empty classroom. And
Right. Yeah.
that's not.
Yeah. My thing is like mainly for the summer, like we don't have like the artwork up or whatever, because the day she's going to come in is like a couple days into the summer program starting.
Okay. For the children that are in your center, the day of your visit, you do want to have some artwork up there.
Okay.
Just to give like a little array of what that looks like. Because even
Okay.
though you're transitioning for summer, the children don't know that. They just
Mhm.
don't see their stuff. Like I said, read over the scoring tool. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and post them. I will post this video, or you know, you have my contact information. Pretty much believe I summed over everything. As far as your program management, make sure that you, we talked about the newsletters and things like that. As far as your children's behavior, we want to see how you're recording that. So yes, you do competency statements, but how are you relaying that information to parents? Are you using incident reports? Are you using, especially with infants, do they have like a daily monitoring thing that you do? Oh, your child was changed at this time or whatever. Just explain those things to your PDS specialist. What kind of information? I know a lot of centers use the app for that sort of thing, but just, you know, let your specialist know that. So if we can't visually see it, we're going to ask you. So just be prepared to tell us those things. Make sure that you show us in some form that you're part of some early childhood community, whether it be high scope, NACE. You need to show that you're continuing your education as far as having training in PD in this area. So you definitely want to show that. You can actually go to high scope if you're in high scope, or if you're not in high scope, because they have lots of early childhood resources and it's a free membership. So if your program isn't a part of NACE, just go to high scope, you fill it out, they give you your card right then and there. So it's not a paying program, but it is for early childhood, the early childhood community. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for visiting me today and tuning in. Like I said, if you have any questions, just post them down in the comments and I will get back with you. You have a blessed day and I will see you soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.